When the light returned, it wasn't the sun, it was a burning crimson sky choked with smoke, and ash the air thick with the stench of salt blood, and something metallic. The survivors lay scattered on a shattered coastline, ships torn in half, buildings swallowed by the sea. The massive creature that had risen from the vortex was gone, but its presence lingered in the trembling ground, in the distant echoes of something moving beneath the earth. The treasure hunter still clutched the sphere, its glow dim. Now, as if hiding its power, the scientist stumbled to her feet, scanning the horizon. Hybrid patrols marched in perfect formation, their movements too synchronized, too precise, each carrying jagged spears tipped with some glistening black material. The soldier whispered, "They're not hunting food, they're hunting us." They fled into the ruins, moving through alleys where shadows crawled along walls, though nothing visible cast them. Every so often a scream would cut through the air and vanish abruptly like the sound itself had been devoured. The group made it to an old subway tunnel flooded waist deep. But still intact, they waded through darkness, only to hear splashes behind them, slow, deliberate splashes. Then faster the soldier spun his flashlight, and froze in the beam a pair of reflective eyes low to the water, then another, then dozens. The hybrids moved silently, their pale skin glistening, their mouths lined with thin needle teeth. The soldier fired his weapon, the gunshots deaf in the tunnel, but the hybrids didn't stop. They surged forward with unnatural speed, dragging one of the group under. Before the water turned red, the survivors broke into a run, bursting out into an underground chamber where ancient rail cars lay rusting, and in the center of the chamber a mural newer than the ruins above, depicting the same monstrous figure from the volcanic temple, holding the glowing sphere above a kneeling world. The archaeologist realized this was no weapon and no key, it was a crown, a device of control, capable of commanding every dinosaur, every hybrid, every creature born of the island. The treasure hunter demanded they destroy it, but the scientist argued it could turn the tide if they found a way to use it. Before the hybrids did, their argument was cut short by the sound of metal groaning above them, and then a ceiling beam tore free, crushed by a taloned hand. The Spinosaurus stood in the opening, half its body armored, the other half now scarred with glowing lines, as if molten rock ran through its veins. Its roar was deafening, and from behind it poured an army of hybrids. The survivors scattered, dodging claws and teeth, as the treasure hunter clutched the sphere and dove into a side tunnel. The creature's head slammed into the wall, sending debris crashing down, separating the group. The soldier and scientist found themselves trapped in a section of tunnel where something ancient stirred. The walls pulsed faintly, as if alive. A low rumble rose not from the ground, but from the structure itself, and then the stone split, revealing an eye far larger than the Spinosaurus outside, an eye that looked at them with an intelligence so alien it froze them in place. The archaeologist's voice came through the radio, screaming, "Don't look at it, run!" And the tunnel erupted in a spray of debris as something colossal began to rise from below. The tunnel floor split apart, sending a wave of boiling water and shattered stone upward, throwing the soldier and scientist against the walls. The eye they had seen widened, its slit pupil contracting in the beam of the flickering flashlight, and then the rest of its face emerged, not scales, not skin, but something like living rock, carved with ancient markings, glowing faintly with the same light as the sphere the treasure hunter carried. The air was electric. The water hissed against its surface as if it carried heat from deep within the earth. It moved with impossible slowness, yet every motion made the walls groan and buckle. The hybrids outside fell silent, their screeches replaced by a low clicking sound in unison, as if acknowledging the arrival of something older, more powerful. The Spinosaurus itself stepped back, its armor scraping the walls. It lowered its head in what could only be submission, and the creature's rumble deepened into a sound that resonated in their skulls, not words, but a command. One, the hybrids obeyed, instantly turning away from the humans and toward the sphere's location. The treasure hunter, running through the flooded side tunnel, felt the ground quake in rhythm with those clicks. The sphere in his hands began to pulse faster and brighter. The archaeologist behind him shouted to throw it away, but the light seared through his fingers, and a whisper slid into his mind, images of endless armies of creatures bowing before him. The sky filled with wings, the oceans boiling with movement. He stumbled, visions overwhelming him, until a deafening crash behind snapped him back. The hybrids were closing fast, water splashing violently as claws raked the wall, sparks flying when they hit metal support beams. He pushed forward, lungs burning, until the tunnel split into two dark passages, one sloping upward, faint daylight glimmering at the end, the other dropping sharply into blackness. The whisper grew louder, urging him toward the descent. The archaeologist grabbed his arm, shouting that the light was their only chance to escape, but before he could answer, something surged up from the blackness below, something huge, moving with the speed of a predator, but the weight of a mountain, its silhouette only visible for a second before a tendril-like limb lashed out, wrapping around the archaeologist's waist, and yanking her into the dark. Her scream cut off instantly. The treasure hunter froze, torn between escape and the pull of that impossible power behind him. The scientist and soldier burst from the crumbling tunnel, pursued by shadows, the colossal creatures, eye now glowing like molten gold, staring through the cracks in the wall, and then every light went out, plunging them into a darkness so complete it felt alive. The clicking sound returned this time, surrounding them from all sides. The water began to drain away into unseen channels, leaving only the sound of claws on stone, getting closer and closer until a single deep voice spoke in the same ancient language. Carved into the murals, the words impossible to understand, but the meaning perfectly clear: you will return the crown, or you will join them forever.